And welcome back to another episode of Code to Cloud. And I am joined today by Janak Alford, the Deputy Minister of Technology and Information at the Government of Alberta. Janak, welcome to the show. How's it going?
Today's great. TGIF, it's Friday. No, it's a beautiful day. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me on.
yeah, it is a blue skies all around, right, in Alberta today. And it's Friday. I can't wait. So, do you just want to quickly introduce yourself, what you do? I mean, we're going to touch on your origin story because it's like I learned a little bit about it, right? And where you started and where you are now. Do you just want to give folks a quick overview?
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently serving, as you said, as deputy minister here in Alberta, but I spent the majority of my public service career in the federal government. I joined as a student in 2005, working for Canada Border Services, and one thing led to another, where I started to look around and see little things that needed fixing, and so I started to actually wasn't a coder, wasn't a kind of a IT person. I was actually doing a background in architecture at Carleton University, and I started to look at little things around. Hey, could we automate that? Could we make that a little simpler? And I'd write little macros and VBA and Excel, and then I just go back year after year as a student doing that. And then I joined full time in '09, and kind of dove into the business services side of it under the controllership branch at CBSA, doing all things kind of money, financial management, and things like that. And then ended up automating some financial processes, automating some org redesigns, all using really simple tools, things that were readily available for a non-technical person. And I did that up until 2013, and then I left for a little bit to run my own business. I started a design studio, Makerspace, and then coming back, I came back in 2016 actually and joined Correctional Service Canada. So I worked there again for about 4 years, and then went to FinTrack after that. So did financial intelligence. I was the chief technology officer at FinTrack, helping to modernize their intelligence systems primarily, and move to cloud and adopt modern API infrastructure and things like that. So that was my last job at the federal government. Quick whistle stop tour of 19 years, but been in and out of the public service, and also in the creative space, in running my own business. Ran a boutique design studio from 2014 to 2020, and that was a lot of fun. And still apply some of those agile, prototype oriented mindsets to the work that I do in the public service to accelerate what we do and get stuff done, as the acronym goes.
Well, there's a slight variations on that acronym depending on where you work, right? Regional- Regionally, it's pretty consistent in Alberta. I'll be
Is
quite
it?
honest. Yeah, yeah.
I'll have to listen.
You'll have to listen, right? But yeah, I just want to touch on that a little bit because you've had a mixture of public sector careers, right? Different projects, then private sector, and then you ran your own organization, right? Your own, your own boutique there.
I did.
What what were the strengths from either one of those? What would you call it? I'm gonna say industries, but we always split public and private separately. But like, what were the best things that you took from, say, the public sector into your boutique, into when you were running your own company, and what are the things that you've taken out of the private sector into your public sector life, right? In terms of technology, process, that kind of thing.
Yeah, that was a great question. I do really think that I draw from both of them somewhat equally. And the one that I would add to that actually is my architecture degree. So I did my bachelor and my master's in architecture, and I think the common theme that actually ties a lot of them together is kind of architecture systems thinking, and just different in different spaces. So if I think about what I bring from my private sector running my business, I certainly still have that, the scars on my front and back around landing clients, explaining what we're doing, securing contracts, making payroll, getting the product moving, getting product out the door. When you're running your business, you don't have the luxury of taking a 2 or 3 month wait to think about it. You have to get your work done. You got to get your bills out. You got to get your your payments in, and you have to stay alive. Especially we're a small business. I think we broke. Some years we broke 1 million in revenue, and but other years we were lower. And I think by the time I'd scaled that right up into 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, I think I'd scaled it to we were 17 or 18 full-time people working on it. And so um, to do that, you have to communicate clearly and you have to drive with intent. And one of my jobs was because I was working in the government, I'd go home at night and I'd look at sort of the client needs. And my job was to write the proposals and come up with the architecture, come up with the design and who's going to work on it and the implementation plans and things like that. And so I'd create those. And my metric was I want to win 50% of what I bid on. And so that was kind of where we landed. That was my metric to say if it's more than 50%, probably too cheap. If it's less than 50%, I probably have a service that no one wants or I'm too expensive. And so I was, sort of aiming for a 50% rejection rate. And that was pretty well where we landed it. So you got to get a product out the door. It has to deliver delight. It has to move somebody's yardstick forward. And every client has clients of their own, right? So become a valuable part of turning my work into somebody else's success. And so I think that's what I bring into the public service. And then, the public service is fascinating. I mean, the federal public service now I think is 400,000 people. And if you include defense, I think right now, and Alberta's, significantly smaller. We're about 30,000 people in the public service. And what I learned here is I learned tons about money. So I learned how to, manage budgets. I learned how to run teams. I learned how to communicate through an organization, pass a message through the gauntlet. And it's kind of different where many of the steps that you have to take in the public service is you have to start to build a mental architecture of the environment you're in, and you have to know how to navigate those pieces and how to connect them together. So it really is systems thinking in government. Like if you're going to be an effective public servant, you have to understand your environment. You have to understand where you add value into the different teams and how you enable them. And so it's kind of like the private sector about delivering product, but it's also about delivering value in the public service. And so I think learning how to run a big organization, having the privilege and the honor of here we've got about 1,300 staff and about 850 contractors, so it's pretty robust organization, 2,100 people approximately. So learning how to run an organization that size at that scale, that's something that government has given me the opportunity to grow, and it's been great.
Yeah, I mean, the private sector is about shipping, right? Shipping
Yeah,
something. Yeah, it's got to ship, right? Whatever it is you're going to be doing. So, yeah, exactly, right? But again, and it's kind of, I don't know how to put this, but like like now the organization that you're working in now, right? Me and you are both customers of that organization, even
yeah,
though we serve it, right, in different ways. So it's like, how do you deliver value back into that from your experience? So what current like what I noticed straight away was you've touched on a few points, and I think they sort of merit to what we're trying to do here in Alberta as well is simplify things, right? And
yeah,
engineers and architects, they love to complicate stuff. Right? It just naturally comes to us, right? As technical folks, right? But what current initiatives are you working on, you know, over the next, I don't know, I'm going to put a timeline on it, but should we say next couple of years, right? That are technology focused, right? That you're excited about, that you think are going to really help like serve residents, right, of Alberta, or stuff that's going to serve internally to the government, right, that gets you excited, right, in terms of
yeah. Oh,
technology.
that's a great question, and the fundamental question that people do need to ask the government is, "What's my government doing for me?" We live and exist on tax revenue, and so we have to deliver value. And I don't think anyone wants to see government um, going slowly. They want to see us do it smart and safe. But I don't think slow is the other S that people are looking for from the public service. Um, and so some of the things I'm excited about, we're very much leading in on the AI space right now. This year, just a couple of months ago, our minister launched our new AI policy around making Alberta the most AI-enabled public service in North America, and the strategies to do that. So I'm really interested in our role as shifting from traditional IT, where we're building an enterprise system, and we're taking a couple of years to build an IT tool or like an ERP system, or buying a COTS product, a commercial product off the shelf, and implementing it. Now we're really starting to pivot, and we're starting to say, how can we be an enabler, and how do we uplift the whole of government to leverage artificial intelligence in their day-to-day activity? And it is a productivity multiplier, but it requires us to take time with people, give them the support they need, give them the tools, the training, and the opportunity, and to do it in a way that they can know is safe, avoids the boogeyman, the privacy pitfalls and the cybersecurity pitfalls of teaching them how to be safe and smart about that kind of stuff. But I'm really looking forward to our opportunity to enable folks, and I think it's going to change the role of IT. We've always wanted to be a strategic partner, but we're often just not fast enough to meet the real needs of either a government or the population. And we do have the ability to sprint, but it's in bursts, and then we sort of revert back to maybe a more waterfall, a more kind of standard, slower delivery. I think with AI enablement, folks are going to be able to, you're not sprinting, you're not walking, but I think it's probably getting on a bike, frankly, where the AI is the bike, and suddenly, you're moving at a much higher rate of speed. So what might sound like sprinting to people is, oh, I got to sprint and go all the time. Well, no, it's not really. You're riding a bicycle, right? So you're doing the speed of sprinting, but you're doing the effort of walking. And I think that's the opportunity that this has. And so we launched our AI Academy. Minister Glubish just talked about this just 2 days ago or yesterday. He has a video out talking about our AI Academy. So we're giving people tons of access to tools, Microsoft Copilot, agent builders, and Google Gemini, and N8N open source, and some of our own open source tools. Like, these are all tools that we're now exposing people to. And what's really gratifying is that they're diving into it, and they're solving these problems that would have been a traditional IT problem, or simply just never addressed because it was just too complex or too effortful. They're now saying, I feel empowered to go and do that with AI. I can do that myself as a non-technical or a lightly technical public servant. I'm now enabled to go and smartly utilize these tools. And so I think we're going to start to see the whole flywheel of government start to turn a little bit faster. And like a flywheel, the faster it goes, the faster it's able to go. And so I'm really excited for that. And I'm really excited to also explore something that we call AI Factory, actually, AI Factory, which is getting traditional IT products, so your ERP systems or your Alberta.ca platform or whatever, getting to a point where, in fact, AI is able to produce maybe 60% of that solution, and then go the last mile with staff. Or that the people lay down a foundation, and AI takes it the last mile towards doing all of the compliance checking and accessibility and cybersecurity checks. A lot of the things that typical traditional developers, we want to ship code, we want to ship product, but then to put a product out in the market, especially from a public service, we have to meet compliance, we have to meet look and feel, we have to be cyber safe, we have to do all those things. And so I think AI, coming into this kind of factory mindset where it's like an assembly line, and we are working jointly to build something collaboratively. I think you're going to see two things happen. You're going to see traditional government services get faster, and I think you're going to start to see new things that we've never done before start to open themselves up, and new opportunities. And I call number one box one thinking, which is everything we do today but kind of enhanced. And then I call it box two thinking, which is everything we wish we could have done, or new ideas that have occurred to us, but were just too effortful or too costly or too slow to be meaningful. I think we're going to start to focus on some of those box two opportunities. So I'm excited to help staff bridge the imagination gap between sort of what we're doing today and what's in the art of the possible about what we're doing tomorrow. And so I think that's the value that I add here as the leaders, to help build that bridge for people to see themselves equipped and enabled to start to work on those really meaningful value add pieces that maybe your government never got around to because it just, it was always a bit of an impossible dream, the shiny castle on the hill. Uh, well, I think we're moving into that space, so it's an exciting time to be in a technology space.
Well, just to clear it up as well, that happens in the private sector as well.
Yeah, no, of course.
Something was too big or too expensive for us to modernize, or they want to de-risk it, right? It sort of instills like I'm not gonna guess like a fear, but like the effort levels required. I mean, you've touched on some great things there because that's definitely things that I'm seeing as well. Is like the ideation and the innovation is going towards more like what we would call the citizen developer or the end user, right? Rather than IT, right?
Yeah,
Coming
yeah.
and saying, here's a new piece of technology. We're just going to enable it and fill your boots, right? Try and learn it by yourself. And it's difficult, right? Because you do need to build those skill sets, right? It's a bit like when the internet got released and folks were still looking up reference material out of libraries, right? And then that shift to digital information, right? So the flywheel was a great analogy, by the way. I'm going to use that one myself. But do you feel like how are you going to sort of develop that? I'm going to say like ideation zone because you're right. The people are going to get a taste and they start 10xing what they were doing before, right? The
Yeah.
creativity juices are going to start flowing, and I think that's where the real superpowers are gonna come out of AI, right? Is the ideation phase. So, have you got anything to say around that? Like, how would you build on that?
Well, I mean, I've always been attracted to problems in my career. I'll just come into an organization and I'll listen and I'll look around and I'll say, "Hey, Kevin, I was at the meeting with you and you seem like you were struggling with that. Would you be open to a few ideas that I might have, or could I build you a prototype?" 99% of the time, everyone's going to say, "Yeah, man, like that sounds great. Like I would love someone to come and help me with that." And then so I go to where the friction points are in an organization and start to pull at that. And that's I think it's curiosity and that's a willingness to live with a bit of uncertainty, right? Live with the unknown and be comfortable in that. So I think that those are skills that certainly curiosity and a willingness to explore the unknown are sort of table stakes in the AI game right now because so much of it moves so quickly and everything's evolving and there's always new tools. And so I really encourage people to foster that. But um, when I know, like, if you think about how to transform an organization, like government doesn't live and die on, we put all of our thoughts and efforts into this one thing and we fail to do it. That rarely ever happens. Government is successful when you take away the thousand paper cuts of that happen along the way of progress. And what I mean by that is like if I think about what if I'm an individual contributor in the government, I need to make something because I have a specific skill. I got to pass it to Kevin. And Kevin works in legal. Kevin works in procurement. Kevin works in policy. Kevin works in whatever. And so then when Kevin gets it, he's got to reinterpret it in his own language, right? His own skill set. And then Kevin makes some changes. Then he passes it to Betty, and Betty says, "Okay, I'm going to look at it with my own mindset. I'm going to go off and do that thing," and on it goes. And so each one of those things adds the kind of we you could call it red tape, but really it's adding in this migration between different people and different iterations, and so things go slow through the system of government because they have all these little steps along the way, and then they encounter these natural problems where the system doesn't allow me to download things or the print function's broken on my legacy app or I don't really have access to the data and so I have to copy and paste it out of these two different windows. Like these are like little friction points that happen everywhere and they're the things that government productivity lives and dies on. It's the small things, not the big things that kill our productivity. And when I love that concept of the citizen developer, the non-technical developers, because almost everybody that I've met can explain in their own language what is broken in the processes that they contribute to. like, I just hate this system. I got to copy from here and paste it there, or I got to go like filter these 1,000 rows and like find Jane Smith's name and paste it in an email. Everyone can explain it in their own language without being technical. What I love about the where we are with generative AI is that's all you need to do is explain it in your own language now. And you've got now this partner that can help you navigate through something that was always the domain of someone else. It was always the domain of IT. Even before I was in IT, I was in shadow IT for a long time, trying to solve these business problems and not involve the IT folks. Because people would just come to me and say, "You're a problem fixer, right?" And I'd say, "I guess. You tell me. Could you just fix this little thing for me? I just need a macro. I just need I just need a little script written. I just need like a little piece." And I know if I go to IT, they're going to be too slow to do it. It's going to be too expensive. They're going to tell me it's a $500,000 and it's going to take 2 years and we got to go to do an RFP and all this stuff. Just fix it, right? And so I look at where we're going, and I know that if we instill the skills in these citizen developers, but not developers, they're just citizen thinkers, frankly. And we teach them that they have a partner with AI to explain it to. I think it's going to evolve the role of IT, and I think it's going to re-enable people to not have to build a traditional IT system, to just be able to implement the thing that they need to solve the problem that they have, which is what any of us actually want anyway. The IT layer was the mechanism by which we deliver a structured process and functionality. Um, Looking forward in the future, maybe a couple of years, I think that the concept that we all use a common user interface will become quaint. I think it'll be an odd idea that we all at one time used the exact same user interface when I do one job and you do another. Why doesn't the user interface just adapt to what you need? And I think that's where AI is going to take it, which is Kevin gets one version that works for the way Kevin likes to work. Janak gets another version that works the way Janak likes to work. And then fundamentally AI sort of stitches all this together. And so we go off having tools that are adapt to us, that are in tune with our natural abilities or inabilities, and helping us to get those superpowers you talked about. So if you want to talk about transforming government, government is transformed at the grassroots, and so enabling people inside the government to smooth off those friction points and to get things flowing again is probably the most impactful thing that you can do to significantly increase the effectiveness with inside of a public service department.
Yeah, do you know that's one of the strengths I've seen out of this, and I love the way that you sort of said how it adapts, right? Because everyone's different, right? And once things explain to them, and like you said, they have their own logic or their own world that they're working in, right? And that's where I really see like these AI assistants, right? There are others out there, but obviously Copilot's my favorite. But especially when I'm looking at a developer point of view, like breaking down complex tasks or saying, I'm actually trying to do this. I've even fed like the LLM pictures that I've drawn on the table.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
And it starts to output what I'm trying to do. Exactly. Right. And I'm just blown away. Right. So, whatever you're trying to get your ideas out of your head, right, on trying to ideate, it can explain it in a way that actually suits the user. And if it doesn't work, you can just ask it again. It's not going to turn
Yeah,
around and get frustrated or go, we haven't got time for that, right? It just keeps going, right?
not available till next week. I can't meet you because I'm busy. And so you have it exactly right. Like I use voice tools. I use a range of tools, but I'll open my phone and I'll turn on the voice mode and I'll say, "Hey, I'm thinking of an idea. I'm going to explain everything I know about it. I want you to echo it back what you think you heard from me." And then it'll say, "Okay, I can help you with that." And I just explain everything I know about a problem. Like, I think it's this, I think it's that, could be this, could be that. And then at the end, I say, "Ask me 10 questions that I didn't think of or I didn't cover in my, in what I'm trying to do." And probably 80% of them are really insightful questions. I was like, "Oh, of course, I forgot about that." And then I'll sit and I'll take it and I'll say, "Okay, now do deep research on this and find out like what's everybody else in the world doing. This is what my perspective is. Go find me the 10 strengths. So go steel man my idea and then go straw man my idea. So break it apart, right? And then on give me the comparison, right? What is the what are all of the merits about what I'm talking about, and what are all the ways that it can go wrong? And then like I use it in this way. We call it hydration. Actually, we've used this term internally now, where you take something like a transcript or 5 minutes of conversation, and it's just add water, right? Just add AI. You can hydrate that out into a 100-page strategic document or a business requirement spec or something like that. And so using it as a thought amplifier and using it as a thought challenger, you don't need any technical skill to do that. And then what you do need is a little bit of guidance about how do you take that as an artifact and then materialize it into so many of the different things that we find somewhat slow and complicated to create, like a business requirements document or a business case or a charter or an architecture or a testing plan or a change management plan. All of those things can flow from this one artifact, which is amazing. And that artifact could be as little as a 10-minute conversation you had with an AI. And so if we can instill the mindset for people to do that, then I don't have to wait. Of course I love to talk to Kevin and go for a hike and brainstorm, and I'm going to do that. But I don't have to wait 2.5 weeks to talk to Kevin because he's off on vacation, and he's my guy. I got to talk to Kevin. I can go to the AI and I can start to develop these ideas, and we can actually start to move. That's what's going to turn the flywheel faster. Is when we're all enabled to do as much as we know based on our role and our skill, and then be able to pass it to somebody else who can then amplify that and amplify it and amplify it and amplify it. That's materially different than the way people are trained to work today about making a little artifact, putting it in an email, and I'm not just sending you an email. I'm sending you a a responsibility and a duty and a task, I'm sending it to you independent of your workload. It just slides into your inbox. And I'm like, hey Kevin, read this thing, right? And so we pass these things around like that. Well, I do think if we can train people to think critically and talk to AI and leverage AI, we can just streamline so many of those different steps.
Totally, totally. It's an enabler, right? It's getting things done faster, but also reinforcing people along the way, right? That's the big thing coming out of this. So we've talked about that happening inside a government, right? And they sound fantastic, by the way. But what about if we talk about the province, right? And I think the last time we talked, we were talking about digital Main Street, which I thought was a great analogy, right? So we look back to the 2000s, right, and the ecom boom, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we'd have storefronts, right, local mom and pop shops, right, in either rural Alberta or the cities, right, and then people started buying stuff online, right, eBay, right, just that was a common conduit, right, that was people's first experience, and then the likes of Amazon and everything else, right, but how do our local economies sort of thrive from that, and how do we like we're driving the initiatives for AI, right, in our respective industries, but like, how does a company of 10 start using AI, right, to give them the edge, um, and obviously, either build more jobs or contribute to the economy, right? Um, do you have any ideas around that? Like, how do we get them up and running?
Yeah, we are seeing, I think Mark Twain said history doesn't repeat itself, but it does tend to rhyme. So we are seeing the rhyme now of the dot-com era in the AI era. So as you said, like, you had these companies and they were successful mom and pop shops, and then online marketing came and they didn't have an online store, they didn't have a website, they didn't have a presence. And society then gets conditioned to expect those things. And then if I can't find you, I'm just not going to buy your product because I don't even know you exist. So there's a big push in the 2000s on this kind of national digital main street to invest in education, software solutions, technologies, and things like that to start to bolster the mom and pop, like the entrepreneur, by showing them the possibility of having a digital web presence, a digital main street concept. So now we're back. We're back at the exact same thing. We look at Canada And Canada is currently, and I have to look at your stats on this, but I think as of 2025, the stat that comes into my mind is that around 6% of businesses are actively using AI in kind of like the entrepreneur space, actively using. When you go into corporate spaces, it's higher, but individuals and small businesses are using it, and at a much reduced rate compared to our next closest neighbor, the United States. They're using it, I think, 2.5 times on average more, adopting AI more than Canadian businesses are. And so there's certainly a gap, that's evolving there. And when I think about a traditional business, if you watch, I mean, I always watch your podcast, but it's from time to time I have to watch Diary of a CEO. And there's been some big thinkers like Jeffrey Hinton and others have come on and said, well, my advice to the future is be a plumber because AI is not going to disrupt the plumbers. And I think that, um, I think it's bad advice. Love plumbers. Everyone needs them and relies on them. I love the trades. But I think that they can utilize this as much to support their traditional industry as much as anybody. And so if I were running a mom and pop shop, if I was an entrepreneur, I would be thinking about where are the friction points about what I need to do. So if I'm out being a plumber, and I'm not in my office answering emails all day long or preparing quotes or writing proposals or sending my insurance information or doing my invoicing. Those are all things I have to usually do on my off hours when I'm not plumbing. And so now bring AI into that space. You can absolutely automate a lot of the barrier to entry for scaling out and growing a traditional business by leveraging a lot of that technology. And so when someone sends some architectural drawings and says, "Hey, can you plumb my new house?" Often it will take somebody a couple of weeks to get back to you and say, "Yeah, I have some availability." But AI knows your calendar. AI can do material offtakes. AI can do estimates. AI can check the cost of materials and do and write a proposal and make a PDF and send it off to that person. And why not let AI do that while you're actually out delivering your value add service, which is being a tradesperson? And so there's that aspect of it. And then there's also, AI is not just in your office, it's on your phone, right? So there's tremendous opportunities for people in a technical role to use vision-based AI and say, hey, this is what I'm working on here. I can't quite figure this out or whatnot. And so even if you're a trade, the ability to have these AIs in your pocket can help you solve tough challenges and help you calculate things. And like you said, the post-it note, you scribble on a post-it note, you take a photo of it with your phone and suddenly it turns it into a change order right on the spot, like, and sends it to your client, gets it approved, whatever. So I think that we have to invest in programs and opportunities for people to understand. It's not the cost of the implementation, actually. AI has a pretty low barrier to entry, financially speaking. The thing we're dealing with is that productivity gap again, or the imagination gap that I talked about between these concepts. Is like, I know AI exists. I think it produces like memes, and I think it produces like slop videos on social media. But I don't know that it can produce. It can 2x my productivity as a tradesperson. No one's sharing that narrative, and so I think we need programs, and we need to kind of amplify and shout from the rooftops. There is something here for everybody, and I know that, just to close the thought, the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, they've been doing a tremendous amount of amplifying that message right here in Alberta. They've been going out to K-12 and telling kids about what the opportunities are. They've been doing AI for leaders, right? They're doing these executive leadership programs. So CEOs and C-suite executives can come and be, oh, I kind of get now why I need to leverage this. And then they've been doing a tons of hands-on research and demonstrations. And so them and many others, right? Many other leaders and companies in the space are available to help. We just need to bridge the imagination gap. So it doesn't matter if you're a plumber, doesn't matter if you're a mom and pop shop. There is something here for each kind of business. And if you can equip AI to be your advocate, your salesperson, your product market fit analysis, your customer success agent, then you can focus on what you want. You didn't get into business as a mom and pop shop to send invoices,
Exactly.
probably.
Yeah.
You got into business because you love making a product and you're passionate about it, and that's the thing you wanna do. It's the invoices, and it's the emails, and it's updating the website, and it's finding customers. That's the stuff that's not as fun for you to do. So not this isn't just this is an entrepreneur superpower again. And I can't wait for the light to go on. I hope it doesn't take too long because we do have a productivity crisis in Canada. We have a declining GDP per capita, and what it means anyway, declining GDP. And so the way to fix that is to start to produce products that people love, that get in their hands quickly, that are unique and creative. And on the tail end, like fast forward a little bit, the kinds of products people will crave, especially because AI is here, is going to be the crafted, the individual, the unique, the precious, the artistic. Those are the products that people are going to start to look for. So why not enable that entire sector to have a renaissance by allowing AI to do a lot of the administrative policy, like regulatory, legal, financial heavy lifting that just holds people back. And before you say, well, what about the accountants and the lawyers and the whatever, that's box one thinking. You have to go to box two thinking and look at the fact that I would never have created this amazing, uh, delight delivering product because the barrier to entry was too high. Now I can produce that product. So I'm not taking anything away from people because I never would have done it anyway. So it's sort of a false dichotomy to say if um, AI agents are helping me run my business better, well then I'm gutting this other industry. That's not at all the case. What it means is I'll have twice as many great products on the market, and I think we would agree, not just economically. I think we would agree socially that the kinds of products that we value most is the unique, the beautiful, the crafted, the story, the thing that adds kind of delight to my life. And we all have the mass manufactured plates and furniture and cars and whatever. But the things we treasure are those more unique, handcrafted pieces. I think that this is the renaissance of that through AI, and not the just the factory commercialization of everything. I think it's the inverse. I think this is the resurgence of arts and crafts. I think this is the resurgence of entrepreneurship in Canada. And I can't wait um, to get those people to start to tap into that aspect of it, and start to see the capabilities to be found within it.
Like, totally. And, when we think of, Alberta and its economy, right? Um, when I've been here 3.5 years now, right? And we talked about this, and the perception was it was oil and gas. And
Sure.
and it's been a merit, right, to this province. It really has, right? It's been the scaffolding, the support, everything. But now what I'm starting to see, and it attracted folks like me to come and live here as well, right, was we're building a digital economy, right? Again, and I feel like it's accelerating with AI, but I also feel like there are other, how would you call it? Like the additional infrastructure that we're building here as well, right? And what's on the horizon. So if we think about data centers and everything, I think you brought up a really good conversation. So in the UK, I had I'm going to say like what would you call it? I had a trades approach in my career to get into IT. I had an apprenticeship. I started on the tools kind of thing, right? Installing networks, that kind of thing, and building data centers, right? And that's something that we've done really well here. And I feel like that's going to be a shift as well here in Alberta is, well, what are the other routes, right? Because traditionally you'd have to go to a different education process, right, to get into those kind of roles. But I feel like that's going to open up, right, and create a new subset of jobs, right, and careers for folks. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, yeah. So I was at an event in Calgary last night, and a young man came up to me and said, I don't know, I don't see myself in the future because I hear that AI is coming after all of these different, niche skills. And he goes, I'm a generalist, but generalists don't get employed because there's no job description for a generalist. You don't just have a team of generalists are like, oh, what do those folks do? Oh, they just do whatever, right? And he goes, I truly am struggling to find myself in the job market. And and I said, well, luckily for you, it's the year 2025, and you're born into the era you are. The generalist is the foundation upon which, if you again are leveraging some of these skills with AI, the generalist um, has a great ability to tap into so many domains and actually pivot quite quickly. And so I do encourage people to, I mentioned curiosity, right? I also encourage people to the key skills that they're going to need to be successful. They're going to need to be able to communicate, because the language of the economy of technology is now going to human language. So good communicators are great in business. They're great in relationships. They're great in sales. They're also, it turns out, really great in using artificial intelligence, because they can communicate an idea clearly, and they can have a narrative, like a dialogue, I should say. They can build out a vision. So I would encourage people. It's just a muscle. You exercise it, you become a better communicator. You read more, you speak better. So communication, critical thinking. One of the challenges with AI is that if you don't have critical thinking, it can misrepresent, because it doesn't have context. It doesn't really know, so it guesses. And then when it guesses, it doesn't say I'm guessing. It just speaks with confidence. So you have to be critical. You have to use your judgment. And then systems thinking. You have to think about, how do I start to connect pieces together, right? So that's going to be the human role, the systems thinker role, where I can say, oh, you know what, Kevin's over here and Janek's over there, and they probably need help in this and this and this. I could orchestrate something now that brings people together, right? Convenes people, convenes their work, reduces those friction points. These are the most important skills of the whole world right now. And there's different labels people put. They put context engineering and prompt engineering. What they're really describing is clear thinking and articulation of a problem, and then an ability to engage in a dialogue towards multiple potential outcomes, and then evaluate the best one. That's probably the most important skill, hireable skill, that exists in the technology space today. And so if folks can approach this next phase with that mindset of applying those kinds of soft skills, I think they're going to do exceptionally well in this next era, and be able to take on a whole range of challenges. Where I think they'll actually have a problem is, where do you go, right? What do you want to do when all doors are open? When only one door is open, it's clear I'm going through that door. I think part of the the challenge of AI is that it actually opens many many doors concurrently, and now you actually have to start to figure out which door you want to go through. And so, that it's an interesting problem to have, which is a wealth of opportunities, rather than a singular opportunity. And so then you, you have to spend a lot of time self-reflecting about what you want when you have so many opportunities. And but what a great problem to have, right? What a great problem to not complain about, that you have too many opportunities, or you have too many tools at your fingertips. So yeah, those are some thoughts in terms of, what the pathway looks like for people going forward, and what the skills are.
So yeah, my take on that as well, and I concur with it. My career took off when when I started to build on my soft skills and started to be able to talk to human beings, as my wife would say, right? So
Yeah,
literally, that really opened things up. But I really do feel like with AI now, you can again just start talking to it and ideating, right? And I think generalists. I've always been a generalist. I think it's. I wouldn't say generalist. It's be useful,
yeah,
solve problems,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And the rest will get figured out, right? Because if you're on a single monorail, to your point, when you're early in career as well, to all the folks that are early in career, you're right. It's that one door opens and you sort of jump at it, right? But then if you're able to scale, right? And sort of branch out, then more doors will open or
Well,
more ideas will come through.
if you want to have a successful life, I must be getting old if I say things like
Here's some
this.
wisdom right here. Go for it.
Just drops of wisdom on you, man. If you want to have a successful life, it's one sentence. That sounds like a really tough problem. How can I help? Is the biggest door opener in your entire life. Because people, you talked about being useful. You talked about, being empathetic, right? That's those two in one sentence. That sounds like a really tough problem. You're empathetic, you're understanding it, you're seeing their perspective. How can I help you? Is saying I'm here, I'm available. And then everything flows from that. And so it is deceptively simple, and yet we find ourselves sort of conditioned to not do that. We find ourselves conditioned to I don't know why, but people, and I don't want to dunk on technical people because I do consider myself a technical person and a nerd and all those other sort of fun adjectives, pejoratives, or whatever. What I want to say is often technical people jump to the reason why something can't work. They're not wrong. However, you can't. It's like prompting, right? It's like prompting with an AI. If you want an effective relationship with an AI, you spend a lot of time developing context, which is understanding, and then you spend a lot of time developing a prompt, which is the action you want to happen. And if you simply go and talk to, and if your simple response, if you prompt something with a two-sentence prompt to an AI, guess what? You're getting garbage as a response. You're getting a meaningless, useless answer. And if somebody comes to you with a problem and you're like, "Ah, Kevin, that's not going to work," right? Then it's the same thing. You haven't taken the time to put yourself in that person's shoes, to unpack it with them, to allow yourself to be ignorant for a bit and expand your intelligence. So it's a total mindset shift to say that sounds like a really tough problem. How can I help you? Uh, but I'll hire that person every single day when they walk in, if that's the person they are. They are infinitely, universally employable. And then, the question back is like, well, what are you good at? What do you want to do? Right. So that's when you need to know yourself. So you're like, well, I'm a pretty good coder. Uh, I like to prototype. I like to make stuff. Would you be open if I made you a couple prototypes? Or someone could be like, I'm a writer. Could I document your problem? Can I help you write it down? Someone could say, I'm a researcher, right? Could I see who else is having this problem? Maybe that's helpful. Like there's an infinite myriad ways where the skills that you have can be brought to bear if the mindset is correct. So that's the door opener. It sounds like a really tough problem. How can I help?
Literally build your way out, right?
Build
It's
your way out.
something that's what I do.
Yeah.
When you're the Department of No, you don't
Right.
get a lot of fans, right? If you're like, let's build your problem out, right? Or build a way out, right?
And
Heart's
and and
months.
often like uh, what we what I'm just going to speak for myself because I don't want to speak in generalities. I crave being part of a team that I can at some way be valuable, right? I think we all have a sense of we want, I don't know, this kind of tribal sense. I need to be valuable to the team, right? And I'm being pushed to in a creative and a safe way. I'm being pushed to my limit because I want to grow past my limit. And so if I'm in a team that pushes me past my limit, then the me tomorrow will be slightly more advanced than the me today, right? So those are the two things I crave in an organization. Please let me be useful, and also please push me to grow so I can be more useful tomorrow, so I can grow more, and so it becomes this kind of virtuous feedback cycle. Um, and I think leaders have to, like, the role of a leader is create an environment where that's happening. Create an environment where you're finding the right people and selecting the right people and whatnot. Um, so if you are the Department of No, then you're automatically closing off opportunity to grow yourself, and you're closing off usefulness yourself. So that's why I hate the Department of No, because it's totally paradoxical to to who I am as an individual. If I'm saying no to you, without giving you a why, without giving you kind of a well understood and thought out kind of reason to that, then I'm inhibiting my own ability to be useful because you're just going to go somewhere else to someone who says yes and can get it done. And I'm also inhibiting my own ability to grow as an individual. And it's like the damage I'm saying and no is just to myself. And so that's why you got to say yes more than you say no. You got to listen more than you speak.
Totally. I feel like we've experienced the same things in our career there, right? But
Yeah.
totally. But I'm just conscious of time. So, what are any final thoughts? Any? I know those words of wisdom were pretty awesome, but like, was there
Oh,
any final thoughts?
well, when I saw how things were changing a couple of years ago, when I saw, what AI was going to take, I had about an afternoon of existential dread where I sort of felt like, crap, everything from now on is just going to be AI. And, it put me in a bad mood for about an afternoon. Um, what I've started to see is we were facing, and I'll just speak about my career experience. I've seen teams and organizations face intractable problems that they just can't solve the way that they were going. And we've got some big challenges. Like we talked about the productivity crisis and the GDP. We can talk about any number of different social challenges or environmental or business or energy or whatever challenges we want. And we didn't seem to have a lot of levers to pull to open up a range of new opportunities. Right? We were sort of in an era, I would say, and if you look at kind of the post World War II era where everything was happening, airplanes are showing up, new vehicles are showing up all the way from World War One. Like if you look at the transformation of an airplane between World War One and World War Two, and then maybe 1980, and then 2020, like you see this immense transformation, immense expansion of the range of possibilities, all the way up to landing on the moon and putting rockets in space and satellites and all this amazing things that we've done. Um, and I had a sense that we were beginning to close a little bit in the sense that, yeah, computers were getting faster and phones were getting smaller, but fundamentally there was this kind of slowing, and I didn't see a way out of many of the different challenges that we had. And I don't think, and looking at other writers and thinkers in that space, I look at somebody like Mo Gadot, who's he talks a lot about AI. He's former Google X kind of lead there. He's talking about kind of the future of AI. I didn't see along the 2020s and 2030s, when all of the challenges people were laying out, a lot of different levers to pull, and there was almost a sense of um, fixed fate, right? Like there wasn't a lot of I just can't do anything about it. Like these problems are too intractable. Um, what I've started to realize, and I think that this is a lot of people struggle with why there's such an investment in AI. Why the billions of dollars? Why are people talking about $5 trillion here and $7 trillion there? Um, and it's just memes and junk, right? It's just like slop, and like it's just like recipes on my phone and junk on the internet. It's not. What it is it's a re-expansion of the realm of opportunity is coming out of it now. So you're headed back into, and maybe this is something that happens on a century basis, right? We're now in the 20s again. We're headed back into the era of great potential. I call this the age of ability. Maximal ability, maximal discovery, intelligence scaling out. We have this ability to scale intelligence without scaling a massively scaling population. These are different things than we've had, but now we're entering into the age of ability. So with that comes uncertainty because now there's 1,000 doors in front of you that you can go through as an individual, as a society, as a culture. We're going to diversify, and it's a little bit about. I think we're headed into a Tower of Babel moment. If you think about the fable or the story of the Tower of Babel, everyone spoke the same language. You're sort of building this unified thing, and then the tower is struck down, and then everyone gets confused. They all go off and speak a different language for a period of time. And so they have different tongues that speak to each other. What that story says to me is that you go through periods of convergence, and then you go through periods of diversification. And I think culturally, like if you look at if you look at our food, our products, our phones, we all have the same phone, right? All the same device. Our buildings, our shopping, our clothes. Like we're in this we were in this convergence mode, and now in the 20s we're breaking apart into this divergence mode. So I think it's probably a cycle, and I hope I live long enough to see another one. But if these are happening on a century basis, but in we're in the divergence mode, and if you've ever longed for the Wild West, if you've ever longed to discover an undiscovered country, or to live in Star Trek, or to live in kind of a science fiction space like Neil Stephenson's Diamond Age or whatever, right? Like some of these amazing kind of narratives. We're in the realm of possibility where all of that is now coming back. We're in this age of ability, age of opportunity, and I hope folks see it for what it is. I hope folks see it and they get excited, and that they feel that they truly have the agency and opportunity to take part in this. And I think it explains the huge investments. I think it explains the power. I think it explains the reorienting of business around this opportunity, because this is the next gold rush. This is the next whatever, frontier land. And I hope folks take advantage of it, because I think it's going to be the biggest leg up to the expansion of human potential that we've ever seen before. And I hope people come along on that ride and feel that they're a stakeholder and a participant.
That was the best closing remarks that we've probably had in a very long time.
Well, there you go.
And I like the Wild West analogy
Yeah,
because moving
right.
from, but yeah, wow, we are the West, right? There's a lot of similarities there. That's all I'm gonna say, right?
Yeah, no, it's exciting, man. I'm never bored. I am thrilled. I am blessed to live in this world that we live in. I'm privileged to have this opportunity to serve as in the public service, and explore these ideas, and my job's to give Albertans the best service that they can get, the best experience, the best ability, reduce the red tape, get rid of all that kind of stuff. What we want is people who are empowered. They're empowered because they're healthy and they're educated and they've got clean air, fresh water, power, and they know they can go start a business, and then they can go be creative, and they can tap into all those kinds of things. Like, I worry that we towards no, not deviate, that's the wrong term. I worry that we tend toward the negative, almost as a cultural Canadian reaction to things like this, where there's a little bit of and that's why you have these movements like Build Canada, right? This idea that, hey, we got to build. Like, this is the era of the builder. And then you hear that all the time in the tech space, especially. Like, we're builders. I'm a builder. And people didn't say that 5 years ago. They said I'm a coder. They said I'm a DBA. They said I'm an entrepreneur. Now people say I'm a builder. And they don't mean it like I'm building houses. They mean it like I'm building robots, and I'm building ideas, and I'm building businesses. And this verb, like I'm sure if you applied like the Google Analytics on this term, you're going to see this term builder explode, and it's already exploding in some sections. I think it's going to become mainstream. It's like, well, what do you? I'm a maker. I'm a builder. And that it will be just somewhat natural. Like, I think we're going to use that term instead of saying I'm an entrepreneur, because you can be an entrepreneur of anything, but now with AI, you can actually be an entrepreneur of these amazing new products. And so I think that this idea of Build Canada is really powerful. Um, and I really hope it helps to challenge some of the kind of the, Canadians are great, but we tend toward this, it's called tall poppy syndrome, where, we don't celebrate the successes of other people who rise up. We don't amplify the companies who are hitting the $1 billion valuation or the $10 billion valuation. We kind of snipe them a little bit. So this this has to change. Like we have to push past this as a culture. We have to celebrate the builders, the people who are taking the risk, and we have to look at those people like make them our Olympic athletes, right? We need to make them the next Hollywood stars, those people who are off making the most amazing things now through this age of opportunity. Like we have to celebrate those people, and it has to become part of our cultural DNA again to say we build and build and make, and we celebrate them. We celebrate that we can do that in an individualistic, creative, unique way. Like I think we have to celebrate those opportunities. Um, yeah, we gotta get back into the narrative, right? We gotta get back to this idea that Canada is a nation of builders. And if we can do that, then um, it's going to fix like the other things are going to fall in place. Like the GDP problem is because we stopped building. That is the problem, right? There isn't another. You talk about capital. People talk about access to capital. It's true. Canada has a capital investment problem. We don't have the liquidity, and we don't have people taking the kinds of risks that they do in foreign markets. But I think it's because they don't look at Canada, and we maybe don't look at ourselves as a nation of builders and innovators. We look at ourselves as, we still have that. Um, I don't know what our identity from that perspective is, but it needs to be this builder identity. It needs to be the celebration of the person, the woman, the man, the team, the organization who's going out and trying those new things. And we need to de-risk failure. By the way,
Totally. Like,
would
if
yeah,
someone comes up with an idea and the company fails, and then they have another second stab at it, right? And then they're a success. Like,
yeah,
we should be celebrating that, right?
yeah, for sure. I mean, there is such a, I mean, institutionally, it's awful to fail, right? Like in my earlier years running my businesses and doing that stuff, like I took I invested a lot of money into my company. Not all the bets paid off, right? And more than once I got in pretty skinny times around, personally because I was putting all my personal finances into it. But like the impact of failure is quite damaging, right? Like, are you going to go bankrupt? You can't get credit for 7 years. All these other things. If that's the impact of failure, no wonder no one wants to try because, and then like, oh, that's that guy. He went bankrupt or whatever, right?
Yeah,
No, no.
they pointed him, right? Yeah.
It's the point the finger, like, oh yeah, you tried, but you didn't succeed. Like it's like the what's his name off Simpsons, Nelson, right? Ha ha, right? You point, he laughs. Like there is that tendency towards this negative mindset, and I think we should call it out when we see it. I think we have a responsibility to say, hey, I'm going to celebrate that, and I try to do that as much as I can in every organization I'm in. I celebrate the effort and I praise the effort, not the outcome, because the outcome will come. It doesn't like if you've got a good effort and you had a good idea and it didn't work out, that has nothing to do with you. Has nothing to do that it like even the association of that it didn't work out is not bad. The only time we fail is when um, we are not trying. Right? Eventually, we're going to get it. It's the 100% of the shots you don't take. Wayne Gretzky, Michael Scott, from The Office. So it is that. Do you boo your team for taking a shot on net that doesn't go through? No, you celebrate the guy who had like 20 shots on net. And then especially when three got through, right? And so let's celebrate Canadians who take a shot on net. That's what we need at this point. Um, and and we've got some great companies in Canada, and we've got some great companies in Alberta. And let's start to amplify those people and clap and praise. And then pretty soon you're going to find young folks being like, you know what? Like look at that guy over there. Look at that gal over there. Like I want to be that. I want to be successful like that, and I'll take the shot. Um, and so I think we have a responsibility, just everyday Canadians. When you hear the negativity, if you hear the negativity, call it out. That's not who we are. We're builders. We're gonna get stuff done, as they say in Alberta.
In Alberta, right? Be your own ambassadors.
Well, yeah. If we can I think that gets the flywheel going, the cultural flywheel going again. We talked about the financial, we talked about the projects, we talked about those other things.
And then the
The
mindset,
cultural
right?
flywheel is right there, and it's the thing that gets you out of bed, and it puts you in bed tired, and it gets you out of bed excited, right? That's the metric as are you working on the right thing? So if you go to bed tired, it means you did your best today. And if you wake up excited, it means that you've got this opportunity in front of you and you have the right mindset. And so we need to be a nation of people who go to bed tired and get up excited to try again tomorrow.
Wow, that was a fantastic conversation. You know, I feel motivated already, right off the back of that
Oh,
conversation.
let's get building, Kevin.
I will say this as somebody that moved from the United Kingdom to Canada, I've never felt more enabled. I
That's
come from
fantastic.
a country of plan from the worst and hope for the best, right? It's like our
Yeah,
creed, right? And here
yeah,
it's like you have an idea and people just rally behind you, right? It's kind of addictive, I'll be quite
it
honest. So,
is. And there's something as a new Albertan, I'll say, there's something about the West
but yeah,
that it is in the more in the DNA out here about that can-do attitude. I think the West has a lot to offer to Canada, and we obviously we've got a lot of natural resources, but we got a lot of talent. We have a lot of great companies, and we got a good mindset too. So I'm not surprised that Canada or Alberta is the most. Most people are moving to Alberta because I think that they're coming for their own reasons, but I think when you get here, what you shared, and we're both new to Alberta. Um, the fact that it's materially different. It's not,
totally.
it's not even on the periphery. It feels different. People act different. Um, it's energizing to be around those people who want to GSD.
Love it. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. Um, we'll make sure, where's the best place for folks to follow you online? I have to ask this. I know you're a public figure, but are any of the socials that you'd recommend
Yeah,
folks?
I'm probably the most active on LinkedIn, so check me out on LinkedIn. I try to share little snippets about what we're doing, and um, I've been really pleased with the engagement folks have had on some of the ideas that we're promoting here in Alberta about modernizing our procurement and leveraging AI. Like people are legitimately excited, I think, about seeing some of that mindset being now embodied in government officials and certainly through Minister Glubish and his colleagues in cabinet and Premier Smith has been very vocal about having celebrating some of the innovative things, being a province of innovation, being a province of builders and technology. I think it's been great, and I've been very I've been very happy to see that people send me DMs and say, hey, you know what? If I can ever help in some way, right? I love what you're doing for Alberta. I'm an Albertan. I just want to help. If there's some way I can volunteer, and just contribute an idea or join a workshop or participate, just count me in. And we have actually through our AI Academy, we've opened it up to all public bodies in Alberta. So if you're a post-secondary or if you're an institution or if you're a municipality, we're inviting those people in and saying, let's just jam together. Let's do some stuff. And so social media, LinkedIn primarily has been is probably the best way to reach me. Uh, I think it's the only one I'm active on right now. Is LinkedIn. Yeah, or just shoot me an email. Come grab a cup of coffee in Edmonton, and yeah, we'll chat.
It's awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on. And thank you very much for our listeners. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and repeat. And leave us some comments, good or bad, right? We like
That's right.
constructive criticism here, right? So, but yeah, thank you very much. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Kevin. Take care.